everyone, and welcome to Placemaking in the Algorithm, a podcast where we explore how the digital world is reshaping our cities and how we exist in them. I'm Wetu.
And I'm Enrique, and today's episode kicks off with the big one. Who are you? It's not just a deep question for your next existential crisis. It's about how identity, space, and algorithms collide in how we experience and perform urban life today.
Okay, picture this. You're scrolling through TikTok and you keep seeing the same rooftop cafe in Rosebank with the golden hour glow, that one thrift store on Court Street in Braamfontein with the graffiti wall, or someone recording a food vlog outside of bustling Chisanyama in Yeoville. You've never been there, but you already know the vibe already.
That's algorithmic placemaking. Our digital feeds are constructing new visual geographies of Johannesburg. What gets posted, tagged, and liked becomes part of how we understand the city. It's a layer of reality curated by the algorithm and performed by creators.
But let's zoom out. This just isn't about TikTok trends. It's actually tied down to deep theory. French philosopher Lefebvre said something fundamental, that space is socially produced. It's not just there, it's made by people, by activity, and by representation.
Lefebvre actually breaks this down into what he called the spatial triad: perceive space, conceive space, and live space.
Let's unpack that. So perceived space is what we physically navigate, such as walking down a rocky street in Yeoville, catching a taxi at Brie, or queuing at a food store in Diepsloot. Conceived space is what we planners imagine, such as master plans, zoning plans, and development frameworks. And then live space, though, that's where the juice is. It's where people create meaning through practice and imagination, and in today's world, a huge part of that is digital.
Hey guys, come with us on this interesting street art and food tour in Mongrel, Johannesburg. We booked the activity on Get Your Guide and it started on an interesting note. Did you know that in 2005, the Mongrel area was a no-go zone due to the high crime rate in this area? If you found yourself in the area during that time, you were guaranteed to be mugged, hijacked, or even your life taken away from you. Thankfully, all of that has now since changed. This area has now evolved to becoming one of the most unique, creative, and vibrant area in Johannesburg, and it is now buzzing with tourists. We saw some of the most beautiful graffiti work done by the locals. We did a bit of shopping at the shops where they specialize on African prints. We then had our lunch kwa Mai Mai, where we had kasi bride meat with uputu. I highly recommend this tour, because tell me guys, what better way to experience Johannesburg than to mix with the locals? After more exploring and learning about the history of Maboneng, we ended our tour at the Hallmark Hotel, where we saw Makosa's beautiful work and the stunning views of the Johannesburg city.
That 15-second video, that's live space. That space being performed, mediated, and reimagined. A side street becomes a fashion set. A bus stop becomes a backdrop for soft lighting and poetry captions.
And that's what makes it interesting. Cities are no longer just experienced in person. They're also experienced in the feed. What gets aestheticized becomes desirable, and what becomes desirable can become economically viable. And that reshapes access.
Let's take an example. Braamfontein used to be dismissed as a student zone. Now, through creators posting reels in thrift shops, corner cafes, and these rooftop lounges, it's rebranded as a cool, creative precinct. That symbolic production isn't just a vibe. It affects real estate, foot traffic, and even policy.
Meanwhile, places such as Yeoville have this rich Afro-Politan energy, Congolese fashion, Ethiopian restaurants, Nigerian music blaring from speakers. But Yeoville rarely shows up in mainstream influencer spaces unless it's exoticized.
So it raises questions. Who gets to perform the city? Whose stories are amplified by the algorithm? And whose are muted?
That brings us to Doreen Massey. She tells us that space is relational, it's constantly being made through interactions, it's not fixed, and neither is identity.
So when someone styles an outfit in a taxi rank or records a food review in the middle of a park, they're expressing identity through space and altering what that space means. Urban space should be functional, legible, and accessible to all users.
Sure, but can I shoot a get ready with me video here and get 30k likes? This is where traditional planning and digital culture clash. One deals with infrastructure and the other deals with symbolic values such as mood, vibes, and aesthetics.
And this leads to what some scholars call urban psychosis, that sense of fragmentation, anxiety, or even identity crisis in a city that feels increasingly performative, where spaces are hyper-visible but emotionally hollow.
For instance, you're walking through the same Maboneng street you saw on TikTok, but it doesn't feel the same. You expected something creative. What you get though is chaos, tension, or exclusion, and that disconnect is real.
And then you adjust. You curate yourself to match the aesthetic of the space. That's self-performance. TikTok doesn't just show places, it tells us how to be in them.
And that's why Sandercock says urban planning has to account for emotional knowledge, for effect, and for storytelling. Planning can't just be rational, it has to be narrative.
Same with James Stormwater. He says that planning itself is a form of storytelling. And guess what? So is content creation. Influencers are the new narrators of the urban.
Yes, hola. Yeah, hola. Sure.
Okay, so let's come back to the title. Who are you? We're not just asking about your name or your profile bio. We're asking, who are you becoming in the city, in the algorithm, in the moment of hyper-performance?
Are you a consumer, a creator, a local, a tourist? Are you planning the city or performing it? Maybe both.
And that's it for today's episode, Who Are You? We unpacked identity, aesthetics, and how cities are being remade through performance, online and on the ground.
Next week, we head into backstreets and bios, where we explore how food and fashion creators are turning informal spaces into digital landmarks of culture and cool. Thanks for listening, and remember, cities aren't just planned, they're performed.